Bonjour.
Bonjour, Father.
Comment ça va?
It's going good.
You know, I'm very grateful to you for traveling with me past 4 weeks of the Advent.
It's been our pleasure.
Yeah.
Certainly has.
Now we have come to the final week of the Advent, and this candle that we are going to light today is love. Okay, hope, peace, joy, and love. All these remind us of Christ Himself. Christ Himself is love. So may I request Mr. Mike Gelbert to light the candle for us. Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. Yeah. If we comprise the whole Bible in one theme, that will be love. And if there is one important message in the whole Bible, that will be love. If for one reason God came into this world, that will be love. Okay. If for one thing we all die to live, will be for love. Okay. So love is so much important in our life, and it has so much impact in our life that we do everything, and we do almost everything for the sake of love, for the sake of the love of the family, community, our children, our nation, for our God. Everything depends on our love. Without love, we are nothing.
That's right.
Yeah. As we are about to celebrate the birth of Christ, may the love of Christ come into our hearts, that we may share the love of Christ with one another in this Christmas and the new year that is going to come soon. Now I would like to ask Pat and Mike to share some thoughts about love.
Yes, Father, I'd like to share how God's love impacted our lives. And it all started when we were very small, like everybody else. We all think about, as children, who we're going to marry, and that's supposed to be interesting. And Mike's prayer, he was a child that was insecure in some ways, so he prayed to the Lord and he asked the Lord that he has a wife that was secure and was firm in her ways so that she could take care of the whole family. And I, on the other hand, prayed for a spouse that would truly love me and that there would be no controversy, would be a good person, and would have faith. He had to have faith because I was a child that was brought up in faith, loved my faith, and held dearly to my faith. So after 10 years, 15 years, now Mike is 18 and I'm 19, and the Lord decides it's time to put us together. Mike had come up for one of his brother's weddings, but it was not the wedding that I was going to attend. It was his other brother's wedding. But the Lord, through his hand, made it possible for Mike to stay longer. And because he stayed longer up in the area and didn't have to go back to work in Connecticut, he was able to attend the wedding that I was attending, and I was the bridesmaid. Now, the Lord in his ways kept Mike here to meet me, and the first place Mike saw me was at St. Luke's. It was in a church. And Mike was not a church boy. So for him to see me in church in St. Luke's was a miracle in itself.
Draw me there.
To draw him there. Now, I was very shy. I was very insecure. Went to the wedding, didn't really see him, but he must have had a deep yearning to know more about me. And he came up to me and said, well, are you going to go to the house afterwards? And I thought, I'll be nice. And I said, yes. And then after that, he said, well, why don't we'll go out in Fort Kent. And I said, yes, but I said, I've got to go change. And I figured, I'm going home, I'm not going, right? But the Lord knew He made Mike get in the car with me. So now I had to bring him home, so I had to go with him. And then to the point that after the evening, he said, "Can I call you?" And I said, "Yes," but I never gave him the number. So he couldn't call me, but in his wisdom of being a boy, he figured out the number and he gave me a call. So the Lord was giving us the pat that, yes, I want you to be together. Then after, I guess it was 6 months, Mike asked me to marry him. He asked me to marry him 46 years ago on Christmas Eve, and we came here to the Midnight Mass at St. Agatha, right here. So it'll be 46 years this Christmas Eve. And but all the time, because of my faith, I kept asking, "Lord, is this the one for me?" Because he likes the water. I'm afraid to drown. He's outgoing. I'm not outgoing. He's not a churchgoer. I'm a churchgoer. This isn't going to work. And I kept telling him, this isn't going to work. You know, and plus he's 18, 19, and I'm 20. We're too young to get married. This isn't going to work. But after praying and thinking about it, the Lord spoke to me and He says, "Do not reject the cornerstone that I am presenting to you." And that I could go deeper. I'm trying to speed this up, okay? And that we came to see now we were supposed to get married in June. Something happened. He came up in January, and we were only meeting when he was coming up from Connecticut. And he looks at me and he says, "Let's get married now." And I said, well, we can't. He says, "Yes, we'll go to the Justice of the Peace.
We'll just go get married.
We'll just go get." I said, "No, we're getting married in a church." You know, so that's when we went to see Father. It was Father Shabbat, and we said, "Okay, can we get married in a month?" And he says, "If you go to Engage Encounter," which we did, and at the Engage Encounter, still I wasn't sure. It's like, this is for life. This is a vow you're making in front of the Lord, and this is for life, for better or for worse. And, you know, I saw in my own family, my mom and dad, like Dad had a stroke, he got sick, but for better or worse, in sickness and hell. He was like saying, "Let's get married," and I was saying,
I was the sure one. This is going to be great, no matter what. I wasn't looking at the problems that could arise. I was just looking at all the positives. I wanted to be with her.
So when we went to the Engage Encounter, I still the night before that Sunday we were leaving, and we were getting married in 2 weeks. And I told him, "I don't think this is going to work, honey." And I had planned it to be a very small wedding in case I decided that this wasn't going to work, right? So I tell him, "This isn't going to work." Well, he went in his room, and I went in his room, and he...
Well, that to me is very touching, because at that point, when she would say something, I took her at her value, because when she says something, even to this day, she doesn't waver on what she has to say. Although I thought, okay, she's telling me it's not going to happen, we're not getting married, and now tomorrow is another day, and it's over. Now she goes her way, I go my way, and there's not going to be no marriage. So I went to my room. We had separate rooms. Of course, there was a lot of hanky-panky going, and people wanted my room, and I said, no, I just wanted to be alone. I was very sad, and I started to write a letter to the Lord. And I was up most of the night, and I kept writing, and those were my thoughts, begging and begging the Lord to make this happen, and this was the clincher. The next morning, we were to leave our shoe outside the door, and there was going to be Mass if we wanted to be woken to go to Mass. So I knew it was the last time I was going to see her, so of course I was going to Mass. Me that didn't go to Mass, and so I left my shoe there, and the very next day, there I was. I saw her one more time, and it was the Father Dan that was giving the Mass. And of course, I was happy just to be with her, but I still had this anxiety of it's going to be over. That's all that kept running over and over. And then she leans over to me and she says, "Okay, I'll marry you." And I say, Don't say that. Don't do that. Because my heart's already broken, but don't do this because I can't take that. Are you for real? And she said, yes, it is. And she even set a date right there and then. And I said, now, if that wasn't answering my prayer and my cry that night before to the Lord, that she was the one I really wanted to be with, and I was going to take care of her and do the best I could to love her and be the best I could in this sacrament of marriage. It was a miracle and prayer answered to me there and then, a prayer that I'd asked for many, many years before this in the 3rd grade.
But you see, this whole story in the end is at our wedding. The reading was what love is, and love is
not
patient.
boastful. Love is not, yeah.
And I realized that if you rely on God's love, it doesn't matter what's going to happen in our lifetime, but the Lord will be in the middle of our marriage, and He will sustain us, and He will love us, and therefore we will be able to love each other.
He's the glue in the marriage. He's the glue in the marriage that will provide this love, this great love that comes from Him. And today, it is no different than the day I met her. I cannot find a better friend.
We are a gift from God to each other.
As opposite as we are in all things of likes and dislikes, there's no greater friend that I like to spend time with today.
There you go, Father. There's your love story.
And that's it in a nutshell.
You know, that was a beautiful story. You know, you made me cry. You know, love is not a game, you know. Love is not a pastime. Love is a commitment. And marriage is a covenant, you know. Marriage is not a contract. I always, when I have wedding masses, I always like to remind the couple that marriage is a sacrament where you come and promise before God and His people that you are going to be there for each other in good times, in bad, sickness or health, richer or poorer, until death do us part, you know. That is a serious commitment, and it's a covenant that lasts for lifetime. Whereas a contract, two companies come together and sign a contract. Once the project is completed, they go on their way. You know, the contract is done, completed, and they have nothing to do with each other anymore. Whereas covenant is lifetime. That is what God has made a covenant between His people, you know, and Himself. We have old covenant where God promised to the people of Israel that He will be His God and they will be His people. He will love them, care for them, and protect them. And in the new covenant, the New Testament, where Christ came for the love of His people, you know, God loved this world so much that He sent His only Son into this world, even to give His own life for the love of His people.
And He loves each and every one of us, and He gives us these gifts of love. If our eyes are open, we'll see it.
Yeah. So, as we begin this 4th week of Advent, love is the theme, and may the love of Christ remain in each one of us and help us to love every people whom God brings into our lives truly, wholeheartedly, unconditionally. I really thank you for sharing with me such an inspiring love story. You know, you have been such a model to one another and also to your children and to our community. I see you always sitting in the front view of the church, leading the rosary and setting up for the Mass and always helping. And now for this whole Advent, you have been a big part of this reflection. So I sincerely thank you, and I would like to wish you a wonderful rest of the Advent days that we all prepare together for the birth of Christ.
Thank you very much, Father.
Yeah.
It's been a joy and a pleasure for us to be able to be a part of this.
Okay. I'd like to wish you a beautiful day. God bless you.
Thank you, Father. God bless you too.
Merci.